We are trying to figure out how to talk about tomatoes.
An epistemology of the word.
Yes.
Because it's about what we know and what we say in and around tomatoes, but in language.
No credit is ever given. The word is taken and put into a new culture, and it wasn't a friendly cultural exchange.
Right. I suppose in that transference through languages, we also have the story of hundreds of years of language subordination.
Well, the document being about language, of course, and language
Right.
being about what we're talking about.
Right. And that's like the Walter Mignolo and Saldua and maybe even into Williams or something like that. Oda al tomate. La calle se llenó de tomates. Mediodía. Verano. La luz se parte en dos mitades de tomate. Corre por las calles el jugo. En diciembre se desarra el tomate. Invade las cocinas. Entra por los almuerzos. Se siente reposado en los aparadores. Entre los vasos, las mataquieras, los saleros azules. Tiene luz propia, la gesta benigna. Debemos, por desgracia, asesinarlo. Se hunde el cuchillo en su pulpa viviente. Es una hoja visera, un sol fresco, profundo, inagotable. Llena las ensaladas de chile. Se casa alegremente con la clara cebolla y para celebrarlo se deja caer achete, hijo esencial del olivo. Sobre sus hemisferios entreabiertos agrega la pimienta su fragancia, la sal su magnetismo. Son las bodas del día, el perejil levanta banderines. Las papas hierven vigorosamente. El asado golpea con su aroma. En la puerta, es hora, vamos. Y sobre la mesa, en la cintura del verano, el tomate, astro de tierra, estrella repetida y fecunda, nos muestra sus circunvoluciones, sus canales. La insigne plenitud y la abundancia, sin hueso, sin coraza, sin escamas ni espinas, nos entrega el regalo de su color fogoso y la totalidad de su frescura.
The messy historical entanglement of the Aztec Empire, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire comes to light in the Florentine Codex.
How did we come to the Florentine Codex as the kind of thing that we were interested in it?
I think I came to the Florentine Codex when I was researching why Elvis was wearing an Aztec sun on his jumpsuit.
Right. And the speech bubbles.
Yeah, I like the speech bubbles. In the mid-16th century, a Spanish friar named Bernardino de Sewin traveled to what had recently come to be called New Spain to record the traditions of the Aztecs, in order to better convert them from their barbaric paganism to proper Catholicism. What resulted, however, was one of the greatest anthropological studies ever made. For 45 years, Sewin worked alongside Nahuatl-speaking people to record 2,400 pages into 12 volumes. This document is now stored in the Biblioteca Medicia Lorenziana in Florence, Italy, of course, and stands as a record of a destroyed civilization's culture. In Volume 10 lies proof of the Aztecs' deep cultivation and use of tomatls in their trade and cuisine. The tomato seller sells large tomatoes, small tomatoes, leaf tomatoes, thin tomatoes, sweet tomatoes, large serpent tomatoes, nipple-shaped tomatoes, serpent tomatoes, coyote tomatoes, sand tomatoes, those which are yellow, very yellow, quite yellow, red, very red, quite ruddy, ruddy, bright red, reddish, rosy dawn colored.
When it was being created in the late 16th century, there was simultaneously a series of terrible illnesses that mostly affected Aztec people. And so there was a sense among the painters, perhaps, that this was a document that would be saving their culture in some sense, at least recording these things, at least producing a living document that would be referred to as they self-recognize their own genocide. So it becoming a testament to these artists' work.
Along with the translation of Nahuatl language into Spanish, this document contains more than 2,000 illustrations drawn by native artists in a style wonderfully outside of European tradition and perhaps wildly ahead of its time. The drawings are like comics in which characters perform deeds and even speak in curled volutes, or what we might now call speech bubbles, mysteriously coated in a variety of colors of lost meaning. In the American Grain, William Carlos Williams writes, "History begins for us with murder and enslavement, not with discovery." And, "Upon the Orchidean beauty of the New World, the Old rushed inevitably to revenge itself after the Italians' return. Such things occur in secret. It was the evil of the whole world. It was the perennial disappointment which follows, like smoke, the bursting of ideas. And bitter as the thought may be that Tenochtitlan, the barbaric city, its people, its genius, wherever found, should have been crushed out because of the awkward names men give their emptiness." With the systematic theft and erasure of former cultures, Europe positioned itself as the inventor of great ideas, great cuisines, great art, never allowing that there might have been some cross-cultural exchange. Mexican novelist Alvaro Enrique brilliantly challenged this Eurocentrism in his 2017 novel, Sudden Death. The book posits the likelihood that Aztec art, in particular featherworks from Mesoamerica, which dealt with light and color in wholly new ways, were transported to the high courts of Italy, where they were encountered by Caravaggio and other painters of the time, a revelatory encounter that silently changed the course of European art. We saw those Caravaggios in that church in Rome, You had to pay to turn the light on so you could parse their brilliance from the shadows. If the Aztecs were pitiless in their human sacrifice, the Spanish were more barbarous, and we more disturbed still, for forgetting, for assuming it is all so easy to be here. Searching for that loquacious father of America, Walt Whitman, in a neon fruit supermarket in California, Allen Ginsberg writes, "What peaches and what penumbras, whole families shopping at night, aisles full of husbands, wives in the avocados, babies in the tomatoes, and you, Garcia Lorca, what are you doing down by the watermelons?" Vaguely, the history of Spain lurks in the American commodity. The everydayness, the mundanity of mutilation we might encounter in our food, our American food. John Ashbery writes in Grand Gallop, "All things seem mention of themselves, and the names which stem from them branch out to other reference." He continues, "Today's lunch is Spanish omelet, lettuce and tomato salad, jello, milk and cookies. Tomorrow's sloppy joe on bun, scalloped corn, stewed tomatoes, rice pudding, and milk. The names we stole don't remove us. We have moved on a little ahead of them, and now it is time to wait again." Andy Warhol puts the Campbell's tomato soup can on a canvas, condensed and packaged in a tin can. This is what we did to the tomato. Just so you know, pizza with 2 tablespoons of tomato paste qualifies as a vegetable in the USDA Food and Nutrition Service regulations. It turns out the language of tomatoes has continued to cause trouble throughout history. In 1883, Chester A. Arthur signed a tariff act which required taxes to be paid on imported vegetables, but not on fruits. The John Nix Company, one of the largest tomato importers, sued, arguing that botanically, a tomato is a fruit and not a vegetable, and therefore they should not have to pay the tax. The trial seemed to be mostly a reading of definitions of various fruits and vegetables from Webster's, Worcester's, and the Imperial Dictionary. At last, the court decided against Nix, ruling that the tomatoes should be classified as a vegetable, since the Tariff Act was using the ordinary, common speech meaning of the words fruit and vegetable instead of the technical, botanical meanings. Nix versus Hedon has been cited in 3 Supreme Court decisions as a precedent for court interpretation of common rather than scientific meanings of words. In JSG Trading Corp. Versus Tray Wrap Inc., a judge wrote, "In Carmen parlance, tomatoes are vegetables, as the Supreme Court observed long ago. Although botanically speaking, they are actually a fruit." Regardless of classification, people have been enjoying tomatoes for centuries. Even Mr. Pickwick, as Dickens relates, ate his chops in tomato sauce. Tomatoes have always been, will always be, about language.